Hakeem, I guess the first thing, for those that don't know you, I guess introduce yourself and tell us about your nonprofit.
Yes, how is everyone doing? My name is Hakim Coggins, and I am with the nonprofit called Newport Bridge. Was founded in 2024 this year, a few months ago, about April. And how I came about it was basically trying to fill in the gaps within the organizations that I work with. So I figured as a challenge and as a BIPAC man, I figured I just start my own nonprofit and try to address the community as a leader, instead of under another organization. So I'm seeking to just try to you know, set an example for a BIPOC person in leadership position, as well as you know, do the things that I want to do under my own supervision, so that I'm kind of not held back to sort of say, and I could just go as far as I want to go.
Yeah, and go the direction that you want to go, of which there are many highly and well profiled in Newport this week. This week's edition, an article by Colleen McGrath and a Q&A with you. And I mean, we could spend all day some of the initiatives that you've created, that you've been a part of. Let's go through some of these. You created a Don't Drive Drunk ride program on St. Patrick's Day. That's a huge problem. I mean, let's be honest about it. Unfortunately, it's sort of baked into that particular event. It does seem like every year there's going to be some idiot that or careless people that drive drunk. Talk about what you did and the coordination that you had with Fire Chief Donnelly.
Yes, basically, we like to call it impaired instead of drunk. Just because it sounds a little more and more sounds a little more lighter. I know it's no way to like kind of like make things sound lesser, but it kind of makes people want to listen more when you say that and understand a little bit better. But how it basically started was I thought of the initiative in my head because I always come up with these ideas, and I feel like some of my ideas are far-fetched. So I kind of put it on a back burner for a little while. So I didn't know how to go about it at first, but I just had the thought. So I reached out to basically an organization in Washington. I forgot the name of the organization, but they said that their Safe Ride initiative was very successful. They do it every year and so forth. So I brought it to one of my coworkers, the idea, to Polly Allen, and she definitely encouraged me to move forward with it. So she hooked me up with a guy from Dare. I mean, not Dare. Mothers Against Drug Driving,
Sure.
Wesley
Yep.
Pennington. And he's the one that basically gave me a little bit of pointers on how to go about things. So he told me to, do the press conference and all of that. So I basically got in touch with Hop Donnelly, a chief from the fire department. And I pitched it to him, and he was like, whoa, this is a good idea. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, let's do it then. What, you on? He was like, yeah, I'm on. So we started off with just basically doing social media reels. We brought in the mayor, we brought in the police chief, we brought in the council member. I forgot his name. Sorry, I can't remember his name. I'll remember it in the middle, but we brought them all in and we did some social media reels. I gathered up basically a logo for it. It was a leprechaun on a surfboard behind a bridge. And the name, I thought of the name. It took me about a week to come up with the name. I had a few names that I had. So I pitched a few names to my director, and she liked it to ride the wave. So I made some coasters. I advertised it that way. I did flyers. I pushed out some flyers on social media. We did the press conference. After the press conference, I basically hung out downtown at the parade and just passed out coasters and QR codes. So what was happening with that, how I came to a standstill was I got the heads up from Wesley Pennington that people often use to take the rides up, so they're not available to other users as it goes along. And people tend to not use them, so that ride could be basically held up and not used. So I had to basically up the ante all day. So I was up to about 2 in the morning. I kept upping it. And then I was able to release some rides for people that really was going to use it. Because people, they'll scan it and then the ride is took. But if they don't use it, it's a wasted ride. So that was the way I kind of like, bobbed and weaved through it. And absolutely, man, I did my research on it. I have a history of drinking. I've been sober for about 5 years now. I always feared driving drunk when I was doing it. And also a close person of mine lost a sister last year from drunk driving. So I thought would be good to come up with this initiative. I did my research on the stats, and I found that that day was really bad. So I kind of was like, well, this would be a good day for us to do it. And as it turned out, it was only one drunk driving incident that night. So we was very successful in the approach to it.
Yeah, well done. I definitely remember that initiative and thinking, that's the type of, that's the type of programming, the common sense. Unfortunately, it's just the reality of the situation. People do drink and drive, or they drive stoned, and it's just a reality on the ground. What are you going to do? I mean, it's not something that you're just going to stop immediately.
No,
So preventive steps like what you took there are huge in terms of saving lives, and also just in terms of setting forth the notion that, when you get the right people in the room, there are solutions to some of our acute problems. You've had a big, well, let me ask you this. Let me reframe the question. In terms of the unhoused crisis, it's a statewide, it's a national, it's a global crisis, but it's really reflected in Newport County. What's your take on the crisis overall? There's a great article in Newport this week that profiles I guess the fairest way to say it is an unhoused artist in our community, and that's just one example of so many. What
absolutely.
do we need to do to get our unhoused crisis under control? Um, it's part of a broad housing crisis issue, but hey, there's a specific problem, and you see it on the ground in Newport every single day. What do we need to do?
Well, that's a very hard question to answer, but what I could say is that unhoused comes in many different forms. I can give you many of scenarios that can cause a person to be unhoused. It's not always dual diagnosis. It's not always, addiction. You can a person basically living their life day to day on a straight and narrow path could come to a hardship in their life to where their car might break down, and or they might get an injury. It could be a death in the family. It could be these drastic measures that kind of throw them through a spiral, sort of say. So for instance, if a person's car breaks down, he doesn't have the support system to fix his car. He's not able to get to work. If you're not able to get to work, you're not able to, keep up with your bills. What happens is, in the midst of him trying to find another job that he can kind of sustain on maybe the bus line or whatever it is, they're already behind in bills. And it's just unfortunate that, you have to kind of like give life skills classes for people that are in these scenarios and try to put out there the resources they can go in case this happens. A lot of people don't know where to go when they come to these scenarios and all of that in life. They're just like, oh, what do I do? So, what I try to do is try to bring that awareness to the community. Like, this is basically what you need to do. You need to try to find a job on a bus line. If you can't find a job on a bus line, because what happens if you don't have a job on a bus line? This is what happens. These are the scenarios. So these are the things you have to kind of like, educate people on. So it's like the people that's going through these stuff, they have to educate the people that haven't went through it. So when they do go through it, they can know how to navigate out of it. And there is a way to navigate out of it, but once you get caught up in it, it's very hard to get out of it.
Right.
A lot of people come to where they lose their apartments, and it's hard for them to get other apartments because of their credit might not be good. They might be able to get a Section 8 voucher, but their credit might not be good enough for them to get an apartment. And with the Section 8 voucher, it it's basically only certain amount of areas that you can look. So that can be an issue. And I believe that just having a record on your a record could, a felony could stop you from getting plenty of apartments. But what I would like to do is I would like to I'm coming up with a plan with Turnaround Ministries to where we could try to get some transitional housing to try to kind of put a dent in the situation. So the transitional housing project that we're working on is something I created in my mind that I thought was far-fetched. But it was basically just buying land and just putting cubicles on them and just going with the solar panel theme of it and electric generators, recycled water, things of that nature, but have a curriculum for them while they're there, for them to transition to learn to the way to function and to get back into society, help them find apartment. So that's one way to look at it. But I think educating people on the things of why people become homeless is what, because there's many scenarios of homeless. So that will prevent it. But of course, there's so many people. There's a housing crisis is backed up. They say there's not enough green to build affordable housing. So I
Well,
one
there's not enough political will, and there's not enough people who are willing to make those zoning changes. There's definitely enough money, and there's definitely enough space. It's a city council and zoning issue when it comes to Newport. It's just it's about priorities. And you know,
yeah.
you mentioned the tiny houses. You think of Echo Park and the pallet shelters in Providence right now. That program being rolled out. Is there a scenario you could imagine in Newport, a location where you could get the will of the city council in an arena where people are very protective of historic properties. They're protective of open space. There's a lot of people who say they're good-hearted. Do you think you could put a pallet shelter type facility anywhere in Newport County without getting resistance from people who are of that not in my backyard mentality?
Um, I think there might be some pushback on it, but I think that people are willing to try at least. But if something goes wrong, they're gonna say, "I told you so."
Yeah.
You so that would be the question that the best way to answer the question is to do it. And I'm optimistic about things, and I think if you create a situation, a successful situation in your mind, that it will become successful. And of course, you will have to evaluate the individuals that you're working with to make sure they fit the criteria. Of course, some people that are risky, those are the people you kind of want to be like, well, we need to do certain other things first before you can get to this measure. But it's definitely doable. And I think going up, building up is a solution instead of spreading, you know. Um,
Yeah.
so
Taking a look at those historic
yes.
property zonings and so on and so forth. We could go on all day. We are out of time. How can people find out more information about the work that you do?
I can be reached at Newport Bridge 2024 at gmail.com. My website is Newport slash hyphen with not slash but hyphen bridge.com. And you can call me on my phone personally if you want 401-771-8555.
Amazing work and just a tremendous contributor to our community. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.